Yes! I'm only half lit. There we go. Now I'm fully lit up. Yes! Man! Woo! Keys, you know what's going to happen in about 24 hours from now?
Chiefs and Dolphins.
Oh, man. There is a small possibility Pete from Pete's Takes will join us. Pete is predicting a massive Dolphins victory. He thinks the Dolphins are going to put up 52 and the Chiefs will score the same amount of points as degrees Fahrenheit that it is. And Keys is down. All right, but that's okay. I think he'll be back. Giggity, let's go. Funk! Yes! Funk, I'm jacked up. Keys is so jacked up he fell down.
I have no clue what happened.
That was awesome. That was awesome. It's okay. You know, I had some technical issues earlier. I actually, I have so much stuff that I want to go over today. Keys, before we start here, man, why don't I introduce you the K in the BAK Talk Brothers, a fantastic YouTuber. Keys, welcome, brother.
Hey, Dan. Once again, thanks for having me in here.
God, I love having you in here, man. Funk, I am so jacked up. In about 24 hours, we have Chiefs Dolphins. There is a possibility Pete from Pete's Takes, a Dolphins fan, is going to join us. He is predicting a massive Dolphins blowout. So I'm dying for him to come on. Homeland, what's up, brother? Man, by the way, I predicted Mayo would be the head coach of New England Patriots. I'm going to go over the 7 remaining positions in order. I'm curious to know what your thoughts are because I know you're a big Patriots fan, man. It's good to see you again, brother. I personally like it. I kind of like what their changes that New England's doing, but we'll have to see what happens. Kevin, what's up, brother? Yeah, man. Pete from Pete's Takes, man. 59 to how Chiefs will score how many degrees? I saw 9. JK cruising 71. What's up, brother, man? I don't recognize you, man. I don't recognize you, man, but I like the thumbnail. That's pretty awesome here. Oh man, I am literally. By the way, if you're not aware, it's a winter advisory here in Kansas City. It's single digits. It's windy. It is brutal. I got so much stuff to go over. I'm going to start off with this though. Keys, Mayo to New England. The co-defensive coordinator with Steve Belichick taking over with the Patriots. I like it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this has been in the works for how many years? You know, this, as I told someone else in the RGR Discord, Bill Belichick likes his smart linebackers, Mike Vrabel, Gerard Mayo. You know, this is just the next one in line. And of course, they hope that they're going to get the success, if not better, of Mike Vrabel. I mean, to me, that's kind of what we're looking for here, right? And he's had plenty of years now as a player and a coach under Bill Belichick to kind of go down that same path.
Well, you know, I have the 7 remaining teams listed. I have some pros and cons. I'd love to get your opinion. I do have a kind of a pseudo list of who is going to go where, but I'll be honest, that's fluid. And there's always a candidate that kind of comes out left field. I don't have any left field candidates. There's kind of 1 or 2, but Funk says, to be honest, I'm a little annoyed by some of those in my fan base. People saying Golf doesn't throw picks when he's pressured. And then when I call them out, they say, check the stats. I get it, Funk. I really do, man. I know my fan base tells me Kelsey's a great blocker. And I'm like, all right. That's a good thing. I'm glad that you're happy with Mayo, man. Ravens 76 B more, man. I have to admit, I'm a little curious how Lamar Jackson's going to handle the rest. You'll be 3 weeks off. It's going to be interesting, man. But thank you very much, and wish my Chiefs good luck, man. Wish my Chiefs good luck, man. Denver Gator. I told you I had a short list of who will succeed Nick Saban at the University of Alabama. But I'm going to level with you. Well, first, let me ask Keas here. Keas, I know you're not really a big college guy. The University of Washington, I don't even know his name. Head coach has taken over the University of Alabama. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's like Caleb LeBoer or something. I don't know. Yeah, clearly Alabama made a mistake because they should have offered Kirk Ferentz all the money that he wanted and more to leave Iowa and go down to Alabama.
I'm going to tell you what Alabama's doing, and this is kudos to Alabama. They're playing chess, not checkers. This is not the long-term guy. All right, this is not the long-term solution. You need a stopgap guy. You need a guy to come in for 2 to 3 years, and if it works, great. But this isn't the guy. In about 2 to 3 years, you're going to see Lane Kiffin, Steve Sarkisian, Deion Sanders, maybe somebody from the NFL come in, but you need that stopgap guy, and that's what this is. Trust me, 5 years from now, this guy's not going to be there. Trust me. It's just a matter of time before they get their guy. But Steve Sarkisian and Lane Kiffin's contracts are set up. It's a massive penalty if they leave early, and trust me, that's what's happening. This guy's not going to be coaching at Alabama long. Take my word for it here. By the way, One Pride sent me a message saying Andy Reid's going to be fired. So come on, One Pride. No, I'm teasing. Actually, you know what he sent me? Nick Sirianni fired, and I was like, what? And I thought he was being serious, but then he sent me a message from some clown on Twitter. I'm not even that. By the way, One Pride, that dude's a clown. I unfollowed him. You should too. But yeah. One Pride's believing this too. One Pride for like all day today believed Nick Sirianni was fired. Making fun of you, One Pride. Don't follow that clown.
Hey, give it a week. It could happen.
It may happen. Seriously, here's the deal: if they lose big to Tampa, that's a possibility. But you're not going to fire him 3 days before a playoff game? Come on.
Yeah, not before.
Keys puts in, I expect to see Mayo be variable plus. Variable never coached under with the Ohio State and Texans assistant positions. That's a good point. I was kind of thinking variable, but I think that it just works better with Mayo. I do have a prediction where I think Mayo will go, and we're going to get in because I'm going to go over the playoffs. I'm going to go over the point spreads, how they've changed, how the betting public is looking at these games. I also have 2 prop bets for the Chiefs game. And if you look in my comments on my wildcard video, I already gave it out. One other thing, Keys, you spent some time in Iowa. You're in the middle of Kansas. Charles Montague is giving advice on how to stay warm. You know I love Charles Montague, right? Like, come on. Like I'm not being a bad guy here. But he's giving advice on how to stay warm. Let me explain something. When you play at Texas and then you go to and you get drafted and play several years at San Francisco, you don't have a lot of experience, okay? I've been seeing this on social media over and over again. I got my cardboard because Charles Montague says bring cardboard. I'm going to tell you this right now. Cardboard's not going to keep you warm, all right? Cardboard's not going to keep you warm. Keys, can you help me out here and try to, so many people are like, I'm bringing my cardboard, I'll be safe. Can you help me?
Hey, listen, I've never been brave enough to go to Arrowhead. Well, I've only been to one Chiefs game. But as far as the cold itself, yeah, good luck there. Stock up on hand warmers, feet warmers. You guys, probably can't buy them in any Walmart, 100 miles away right now?
Probably not.
But yeah, you should have, if you were planning to go, you should have got those little hand warmer packs and feet warmer packs and a blowtorch, some gasoline. What am I forgetting here, Dan?
I'm gonna tell you, and by the way, I put all this stuff in my How to Stay Warm at Arrowhead video. Cardboard's not going to help you, but I got some things here right away. Let me tell you the number one thing. These are waterproof, insulated hunting boots. This is what you wear. Cardboard, if you're wearing shoes and you bring some cardboard, you're going to freeze your ass off. These, get some heavy duty socks. And by the way, when you get the boots, this was actually a different color because I used this spray. I used almost this whole can. You can't hear this, but like this is empty because I used almost a whole can on these boots. If you're going out to games, heavy duty insulated waterproof hunting boots is the way to go. I've been to over 300 games. I've never brought cardboard. I would be warm out at Arrowhead. I'm going to tell you something. 24 hours now, if I was going to that game, I would be fucking warm. I know how to dress, and I'm not bringing fucking cardboard. I'm mad at this because people are going to bring cardboard wearing their running shoes and they're freeze their balls off. All right. I'm amped up, Keys. I'm amped up.
Well, first off, you're not supposed to put the cardboard under there, are you?
So what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to put the cardboard down because you're standing on concrete, and it's supposed to be this magical thing.
You weren't talking about freezing your feet.
Yeah.
I'm just saying if you're putting the cardboard there instead of under your feet, it's not going to help your feet at all anyway.
No, so people, yeah, that's what people do is they stand on the cardboard and they think it's magically going to help you stay warm in single digit weather. No, it's not. You know, watch my video because there's people that wear 3 pairs of socks and they freeze. There's people that wear running shoes and they freeze. Heavy duty socks, waterproof insulated hunting boots is the way to go. I'm telling you. Also, I bring this up in my video. I call it my standard 5. You got to layer up. So, all right. I'm sorry. I'm amped up, man. I'm too amped up. Why did I drink an energy drink before I came on? Okay. Rams Tampa upset this week. I got both of those, Kevin. I got both of them. Great minds think alike. GNS Dan. I don't know what GNS means, man. I don't know. Let's get into my top 7. I put them worst to first, and by the way, I don't have Keys on just because he agrees with me all the time because I know he's going to have a few disagreements here, but I'm going to bring in my list here of the games here, the teams here. I think the worst job is the Chargers, Keys. Out of the 7 remaining, how do you feel about this one?
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I just looked at a list from like NBC Los Angeles. I don't know, a couple days old or so. And they actually had the Chargers up there at like 3 or 4. And it made me laugh because of the clear locational bias to it. Like they really thought that being in California, being in Los Angeles was a huge draw as a potential head coach landing spot. And they couldn't have been more wrong.
No, it's not. And I got a little pros and cons list here as well. You have Justin Herbert. You have some really talented receivers. You have some good defensive studs. Okay, so it's funny because I'm going to jump ahead here. I got LA as a pro, but I also have LA as a con. And the reason why is that if you win in LA, the world is your oyster. I mean, you have movies, movie stars, Hollywood access that it only exists, but you have to win. They're not a loyal fan base, but if you can bring if whoever takes over brings a championship to LA, like the opportunities are limitless. The opportunities are limitless. Out of these 4, is there anything that you would? I mean, LA, I have a pro and a con, but am I wrong on anything here?
Well, I mean, how's Allen and Williams? Is that part of the wide receivers pro here?
Actually, I have Joshua Palmer and Quentin Johnson, but this is also part of the negatives. Is that I don't have the list pulled up. I can pull it up, but the Chargers, I think it's over 31 million negative, or they're 31 million over the cap. I did a little checking, but when I made the list, I don't have it up. I can pull it up though. They're the fourth worst team in the NFL as far as salary cap going into 2024. I think the number is 31 million over. That's up right now. That's without signing anybody. So there's some definite problems with the salary cap. I put ownership. I think the AFC West is pretty tough. It may not be the toughest, but I mean, you know, you have one team that's won 8 straight. And then I have the fan base, but the salary cap's really the big one. But I put LA in there because LA fan base probably cancel each other out. But there is a pro and a con to LA.
Yeah, not to mention as far as the con there is the travel in LA and all the taxes in LA.
Yeah, and it's funny. The first time I went out to Vegas, it was an old buddy of mine, and I drove out there. He flew, and he's like, "Hey, we should go to LA." And I'm like, "Fuck that." I'm like, "Fuck that." But yeah. Funk, AJ Brown scrubbed the social media of all things Eagles. Kind of hope Slasher hops in tonight. I was not aware of that. Players do this every now and then. I don't really read too much into it. But he's not the first guy to do this. So, Keys, what's the deal with the Iowa offensive coordinator? Got anyone yet?
Yeah, I answered this one in the chat. I've been campaigning for Iowa defensive coordinator Phil Parker because his defense has outscored Iowa's offense over the whole Brian Ferentz tenure.
I have the Texans up. I have the Texans too. I have the Texans over the Browns, and my simple logic is I like Stroud better and I like Flacco, and the betting public. I'll get to that here, but the betting public does agree with me too. The line's been shifting, and I'll go over that in a little more detail. But yeah, I'll be honest with you. I thought I would be in a lone minority here. A lot of people like the Texans. Kevin, I was kind of expecting a lot of people to like the Browns here. I would love to see this, but I don't. I think the Texans. I like Stroud over Flacco. Right. Team number 6 I have is the Carolina Panthers. Keys is 6 high, low.
I mean, I think you can make a great case that it should probably be after Los Angeles. Simply because at least LA has a lot of core pieces to build around, and especially the most important one, which is quarterback. Justin Herbert is a proven quarterback, maybe not in the playoffs, but he's a proven quarterback. And I think that's probably, the biggest reason out of all the reasons that I would put them as a better destination than the Panthers. But on top of that, you have to look at the coaching carousel in Carolina. So I think for that, Carolina is the worst one on this list.
So I told you that I don't have Keys on here just because he agrees with me. Keys telling me my list is crap. That's not what he said. But my pros are Bryce Young, the weak NFC South, and the defensive players. My cons are no first round pick, the turnstile at head coach. Their wide receivers are really, by the way, Adam Thielen, I know had over 100 catches, but he averaged 9.8 yards a catch. That's really not good. And they're shut out their last 2 games. Bryce Young is not proven, but am I wrong in thinking that you have something here?
You know what? I mean, if you want to give him a pass for the first season or 2, I'm fine with that. He probably shouldn't have been playing the first season at all. And, but man, before last season began, I thought they had a pretty good coaching staff there. So, I'm not too sure with the guys that Frank Reich had there that it was necessarily a coaching issue.
I'm not sure either. I don't have it on the list, but I do have some coaches that I'm predicting to go there, and I'll get them at the end. But Wilkes, I think, should have been. I'll be honest, if Carolina was smart, they would reach out to Wilkes and say, "Hey, look, our bad. Come on back." come on back. But the weak NFC South, they do got some good defensive players, though. I mean, you do agree with me there.
Yeah.
So I mean, I got them at number 6 here. Of course, the cons are, I think pretty obvious here. I mean, is there anything that you would add, subtract?
No, I think you just about got it there.
And Keas says it's a fantastic list. So number 5 on the list here, going from worst to first here, I got Seattle. Your thoughts, Keas, just right before I go into my pros and cons here. Seattle, good spot, bad spot?
Yeah, I think a good spot. Part of it's gonna depend on, what Pete Carroll's level of involvement is, stepping up to a more like senior advisory role or whatever, ambiguous role they're kind of giving him there. But if he does a great job with that, and I don't think that there's any reason to think he wouldn't be able to. He seems like a wise and mature enough person that, he probably would be one of the best people to handle a transition like this. And I think that if that is the case, you might be looking at one of the more premium positions. Number 5 might be too low on this list.
I kind of struggled, like 5, 4, and 3. I kind of really had a tough time with. Let me throw this out there, because I think the Dan Quinn's going to return back to Seattle, and I think like Pete Carroll would be on board with that, and he would try to help out his former defensive coordinator. How would you feel about that? Like is that the home run, or would you go with an offensive coach?
Yeah. Hey, listen, I put together my own head coaching table when you asked me if I would be on, and Dan Quinn, I had number 1 with the question mark for Seattle Seahawks. So I think we were thinking kind of along the same lines there of bringing him back. And, he's been there. I want to say he's either been there twice, or he had 2 different positions there in Seattle, which tells me that Pete Carroll and Dan Quinn liked each other. So Pete Carroll makes this move. It kind of makes sense to me that maybe this is what Seattle was kind of thinking in him doing it at this time.
Yeah, I that's kind of my thoughts as well here. And for my pros, I put this the cons replacing Carroll, and that's kind of why I like Dan Quinn, because if you do, then the Carroll situation's kind of negated. But the pros, ownership and money, that wide receiver trio is amazing. And then you also have some really good defensive players. There's some holes on defense, but am I missing anything here? Because I like their running backs, but I mean, neither one of them are. Kenneth Walker had some injuries, but at times has looked really good. Charbonnet, I had a major man crush on him when he was at Michigan, then at UCLA. I really like him. I think they have a good duo, but when I look at Seattle, the number one thing I like just as a team is that those trio of receivers.
Yeah, I think the only thing else I'd hit on there, since they nailed that 2022 draft and picked up both of their offensive tackles as well. So
they got offensive. They have a solid offensive line, which was a problem when they had Russell Wilson there. My negatives were with Dan Quinn replacing Carroll is kind of negated, but you're also in a brutal NFC West. They do have it was like this little over 4.3 million in cap space, which means that you would barely be able to sign your rookies. Now they are missing, I think it's a second or third round draft pick because they traded for Leonard Williams, but the salary cap's kind of tough. I'm not a Geno Smith fan, and you can't get rid of him this year. I don't know if you can trade him, not trade him, but out of the cons, now me and you both like Dan Quinn, so that would be negated. But anybody besides Dan Quinn, Pete Carroll's a popular coach. I mean, players love this guy, and they should. Is there anything I'm missing on my list?
I don't know, but again, I'm not even sure that replacing Pete Carroll is going to be a big issue if he's still involved in that organization. I think he's going to take on, if it's not Dan Quinn, I think he's going to take on more of a mentor role for that head coach. So if they want to bring in a younger guy, I think he's really going to be there to help that younger guy grow, kind of in a situation that a lot of new head coaches don't necessarily get to go into. So whether it's a veteran head coach like Dan Quinn or even a first-time head coach, if Pete Carroll has the kind of role I expect him to, I think either way, I think they'll be fine there as far as the head coach position. Gino, I don't think he's necessarily the answer. I would put him in the average to above average category, kind of out there maybe with like a Derek Carr type. You could be in worse situations like the Giants or the Jets, but I don't think it's that bad. I think they have enough pieces they can continue to build that offense. I don't know what happened with Noah Fant. I was really looking forward to seeing him explode in that offense.
More involved also. Big Noah Fant fan. But it's safe to say, though, Geno Smith, out of those 4 quarterbacks in the NFC West, he's the worst one. And you're also giving him a lot of money, and you're kind of stuck with him. I thought if you wanted to get a quarterback this last draft, which you did a fantastic job on, this would have been the draft to get him in. I'm going to read some comments, and I'll get to the top 4 here. Hatter's House, Texans, Chiefs, Bills, Green Bay over Dallas. That would be huge. Tampa Bay and maybe a Lions fan picking the Lions. I'm kind of shocked about that one. But Keas, let me ask you this here. Green Bay beats Dallas. Man, what would be your thoughts there?
I wouldn't be terribly surprised about it. I don't know that it's going to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised. Like, it might be considered an upset. I wouldn't be surprised. So I wouldn't consider it an upset. I think it could happen. The way that the good games I've seen the Packers have, especially the one against the Lions and then the one against the Chiefs, to me, that would be the path that they would have to take to do it, because it certainly wouldn't be easy against Dallas's defense. To me, it's almost a coin flip either way anyway.
No, I think it's a little – I think Dallas, because they're at home, has the clear advantage. But if Jordan Love plays the way he did against the Chiefs, and then who was it that they beat before they played Kansas City? They had 2 really good wins and then some bad losses. But yeah, I think Dallas wins handily. I'll tell you what, if Dallas loses that first playoff game, McCarthy may join this list. So I want to read this comment here. Kevin Wilson says maybe you don't want to see the Browns, and Ravens B. Moore says, nope, we the Baltimore Ravens don't care who we play. If we play our A game, nobody can beat us. The only team that beats Baltimore is Baltimore. Keas, what are your thoughts? You had the Browns as the best team in the AFC, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know what? Raven 76 B More, you need to pay royalties to the Kansas City Chiefs fan base, because that is their slogan. Nobody beats Kansas City except for Kansas City or Carl Cheffers. One of the two. Take your pick.
Funk, I got a couple bets for you. The only bet I'm placing this weekend is the Rams running back on the under. They got them at like 83 yards, and the Lions run defense has won me a good chunk of money over the last year and a half. I did not check that bet. That's a very high number. Now, I'm going to let you know, Williams has been playing some really good ball. He's been playing some really good football, but 83 is a very high number. The Trek Reviewer, welcome back, brother, man. Welcome back. Browns bested Baltimore this season, and they won. They can do it again via Flacco. Just saying. That's interesting. That's interesting, man. I'll be honest. I like the Texans over Cleveland. So before you count Cleveland, Baltimore, let's see how it works. Yeah, Steve Wilkes, former App State. I didn't know he was an App State guy, but yeah, that's who Carolina. That they won't, but that's what it is. Baltimore beats Cleveland. Also, keep in mind we know Flacco. Cleveland doesn't scare us, but let's see if they can get by. Stroud is trending, but Brown's D is also trending. Just saying, I do like Houston. I mean, I thought I'd be more in a minority here. I just like Stroud more than I like Flacco. That Texans defense is not bad, but Keas, you know what? I'm kind of bouncing around here. I'm really amped up here. Cleveland, Houston. Do you have like a clear favorite here, or are you with me that it could go either way?
It could go either way, but I'm actually I don't know, majority, minority, whatever. I'm going Cleveland in this one. I think that talking about Joe Flacco doesn't necessarily matter because it's not about Joe Flacco. It's about the offensive line and Amari Cooper, right? Flacco can still throw the ball. All that matters there is that Cooper catches the ball. And that's what I've seen him do this year. And I just think that Cleveland defensive line is nasty.
It is a really, it's a really good defensive line. There's no doubts there. Funk says, I'm so glad Carroll's out. Yeah, Carroll's had your number, man. You know the deal, best bet of the weekend, Ferguson plus 135, any touchdown, easy. I wouldn't make that bet myself, but I don't hate it. Plus 135. I don't have that. I'll look that up. I'm going to star this comment because I'll get back to this because I have two prop bets that I like, but they're both Chiefs bets. I'm going to see but I do have DraftKings pull up. I'll see what we got here. Left hand or right hand, that game. Yeah. Cliff, go Fins. Welcome, brother. So Pete from Pete's Take says he may come in. He's predicting Dolphins 59, Chiefs will score as many points as the degrees. So that's what he has. I bet one Canadian, Bud Brown. Dan, what's the latest weather? We're under a winter advisory. It's single digits. It's windy. It is nasty. It is really, really nasty outside. It's going to affect the game, and I've heard some Dolphins fans think it's a positive for them because they're going to be able to run the ball. I think it's more of a positive for the Chiefs because I'm looking at one of the things that Keas brought up on his channel Wednesday was the banged up Dolphins defensive line against a really good Chiefs offensive line. Keas, isn't that the matchup that you think kind of favors Kansas City there?
I think there's a few of them, but the latest I saw is we're talking about negative 30-degree wind chills here, right? So to me, what I think is actually the biggest factor is the weather against all the injuries the Dolphins have on offense and defense, right? Tyreek Hill, listen, he could have been on that injury report as kind of gamesmanship, but he was on there for a quad injury. That's an issue he had his last couple of years in Kansas City, right? He goes to Miami where it's nice and warm out. When you're nice and warm, those muscles get nice and warm and they stay loose. I think that could be a big issue. Waddle, same thing. All those guys on there, listen, it's not going to feel good if you're injured in this game. I don't care what drugs they're going to give you. Those players are going to be stiff. They're going to be achy. Nobody wants to be there, but especially guys who are used to sitting on a beach or beating up people at marinas or, whatever they do in Miami. So to me, it's the Dolphins versus the weather. I do think it will have that kind of effect. You can only huddle around a heater so much. And if this game turns into a one-dimensional game, I think that favors Kansas City's defense. The Dolphins' defense missing players and the Chiefs' offense seemingly starting to find a few things out, I think favors Kansas City as well. So that's kind of my take. I could go on, but we're not here to just talk about Chiefs and Dolphins.
No, I do want to touch base on that because I do got two good prop bets for the Chiefs game. Ravens B More says, any Mike Vrabel prediction? Where do you think he'll end up? I do have a prediction. I'm going to finish my list. Keys, you have a head coach list that you can share?
Yeah, it's not necessarily a list like yours. It's kind of a cheat sheet.
Okay.
I was using here to kind of talk about things, but
I have a prediction as well, but I'll finish up my list here because I want to talk about the positions, and then I have a list and I want to hear yours. Ravens 76B More. I do have a Mike Vrabel prediction, and I want to save it because I wonder if Keys' prediction is going to be the same as mine. I don't think it is because I do have Vrabel coaching somewhere. I don't think it's where you think. I do have a prediction. Belichick too. I do have a Belichick prediction as well. Spoiler: it's not to Atlanta though. Yeah. Grossi would have a court theory. Boys win but lose the next one. I could see that too. By the way, he's saying this to Baltimore. There's two teams that can beat Baltimore. They are the Ravens and the Toss Allen-led Bills. We'll have to wait and see. The line went from 5 to 4. By the way, so here's the deal. I was going to go over that next. The line opened up at 3.5. Last I looked, it was 4.5. The over-under stayed relatively the same. The Finns runners are tough, but I don't think Wilson's playing, and Archain. Good. I know. Like I love Archain. Don't get me wrong. How do you feel about him playing in his first below freezing game against a tough Chiefs defense? I'm kind of thinking a fumble might be in turn, and if you lose the turnover battle, you're not going to win this game. And I would almost count for an Archain fumble. The Finns need to run the ball well or they are screwed. Same thing for the Chiefs. I do not see a lot of explosive pass plays. It's going to be so cold they may say deflate date too. Josh Allen always makes it critical. I don't know if it's critical, but he does turn the ball over way too much. That's too cold. Miami, Kansas City. Yeah, and I agree with that. I'm going to get to the next team here. Team number 4 on my list, I'm going worst to first here, is I have Tennessee. Keys, what are your thoughts on the Tennessee Titans position?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I guess to me, the biggest thing is, and I know you're a bigger believer in Will Levis than I am, and it's not.
Denver Gator loves him.
I just take a year or two, of show me before I'm there. So I guess to me, that's kind of part of the key. Part of it is from everything that we were told or everything that I've read, the biggest issue with Vrabel leaving is because they're wanting to rebuild. So I would probably, I might actually put this one below even Seattle, simply because I do think that you're looking at a head coaching position, someone who's going to be leading a rebuild. And I don't know, looking at this from the standpoint of all the big names out there, I don't know how many of those head coaches are going to want to go there. Because it really seems like the Titans at least have to retool, whatever word you want to use. I think you're wasting a year or two of a head coach just in kind of tearing things down a little bit and rebuilding.
I'll show you the pros here because we may have some differences here. The pros is you have a lot of salary cap room. I'm a little higher on Levis. And when I say running back, I'm talking Spears, not Derrick Henry. I really like what I saw on Spears. You have a guy that can make some plays. You have Hopkins for one more year. So you have a quarterback who's got a number one receiver in Hopkins, and you got Spears. It would be great if you can sign Derrick Henry. I do think that they have a good defense, but I did want to put a note that they had the worst interceptions or fewest interceptions. They only had 6. The defense is still really good. I'm fully aware they had the least amount of interceptions in the NFL last year, but I still think the defense is solid. Like that salary cap, you can use at other spaces. The defense is pretty solid. And also I like that they were a 5-4 team at home, even though they were 6-11 overall. I think that's a positive. Let me go over to negatives here, and I want to get your thoughts here. The AFC South. At the beginning of the season, I might have said this is one of the weaker divisions, but you have 3 teams that have winning records, and then you have Tennessee. Vrabel was a guy that was very popular. They did give up 64 sacks last year. By the way, Skornansky is a guy that's a stud, and they got some young pieces on that offensive line. But you give up 64 sacks, that's a problem. They do have Trayvon Burks, a guy I absolutely loved come out of Arkansas. He has not developed at all, so you're don't really have a number 2 guy. So. But what are your thoughts here on Tennessee?
Yeah, outside of what I just said there, I think that your list is good. And just to reiterate, because I see what Funk said here, I'm talking about, and I thought I made it clear, the top coaches. Like we're talking about Belichick, Belichick, Dan Quinn, maybe some of these guys who are highly sought after by basically every team that has a void. Why would you choose to go to a team that's rebuilding when you can go to a team that's ready to win now? There are a couple teams who were just a head coach away. Chargers, but you know what I'm saying there, right? Like Bill Belichick, It doesn't make sense for Bill Belichick to go to the Titans, in my opinion.
No.
I think he's going to go to a team that either has their quarterback, like the Chargers, or on my list, I have 2 teams written in, so they currently have head coaches because they're currently in the playoffs. But if those teams lose round 1, maybe even round 2, with the rosters they have, it might be goodbye and let's call Bill.
No, I'll look. I got a spoiler alert here that I don't have. I don't have Bill Belichick going to Tennessee. You're right, though. It's not a place, and that's one thing I didn't put down is like Tennessee's not going to get one of the elite coaches, and the guy I got is going to be a first-time head coach. Spoiler alert, but that's how I got it so far. Number 3, I know you disagree because you think Washington's the best one. The pros here is you have the most salary cap of any team. It's a little confusing. I didn't space in between there, but it's 2, 36, 40, 67, 95, and pick 103. So you have 6 out of the top 103 picks in the draft. You have 2 stud defensive tackles, and you have some good offensive skill position players here. Keas, what are your thoughts here on the pros? I'll give you my cons here in just a second here. Am I missing anything? So I know you think you had Washington number 1.
Yeah, I think that list there is pretty good. You might add the new ownership on there. Certainly before the new ownership, you would have put ownership on there as a con. And so, you put it on there as a con and maybe, but the question marks definitely aren't there without the new owner. So at least there's that. So, yeah.
Yeah, the thing is with new ownership is you really don't know. I mean, people saw what Jerry Jones was doing as terrible when he first got there, and people saw what Daniel Snyder was doing when he first took over as good. People saw when Jerry Richardson had to sell the Panthers that all this new ownership, this is going to be a plus. And so far, this looks like a disaster. So you really don't know what you're getting. The cons are you're in a tough NFC East. I didn't know that it was the NFL's worst defense in points and yards. I didn't know that. And the only I didn't know this either until I started looking at this. The only quarterback who signed for next year is Sam Howell. So I thought that was kind of interesting, but that's kind of the way I look at it. Ownership could be a positive, but when you have somebody new, bottom line, you just don't know. That's why I put it as a con. But I got 2 and 1 here. I know you would disagree with number 2, but I got the Raiders as number 2. What are your thoughts about the Raiders position? And hold on. Okay, there you go.
They certainly looked better under Antonio Pierce's leadership. I think that, there's some offensive players there, right? Devontae Adams is still there. Josh Jacobs is set to be a free agent after they declined his 5th-year option. They have Jacoby Myers. They have some pieces there on the offense. Mayer, the tight end. Hunter Renfrow. So they have some pieces there on offense. They definitely have some pieces on the defense there. I'm kind of in favor of Patrick Graham staying as a defensive coordinator. I don't know that happens if a different head coach comes in. I still think that I don't know that Mark Davis is a guy. I mean, it's better than the Panthers position for sure. You can get a 5 or 10 year check and then get set to, paid to sit down after you get fired 2 years in and still get a huge paycheck. But I don't know. And I guess the other thing is I'm interested to see what you have on here, because you had the Chargers being in the AFC West as a con. And to me, that's just a big con for the Raiders as well. Because at least the Chargers have their quarterback.
Yeah, so I put the positives, and I know the second thing you said is contradictory to what I have, but the pros are Vegas. Now I'm a little biased because I love Vegas. I think Mark Davis has actually done a fantastic job. I think the simple fact that his last name's Davis has some negative connotations behind it, but I think he's done a fantastic job as an owner so far. They went from Oakland, one of the worst facilities in the NFL, to a state-of-the-art place there in Vegas. Max Crosby, who, if the Raiders were a playoff team, he would be Defensive Player of the Year. Excellent skill position players. They also have a really good salary cap. The negative I have is the brutal AFC West. Jimmy Garoppolo I was floored. I should have had this pulled up, but he's due a lot of money this year. You can't cut him. You almost can't trade him. You're paying him starter money, but he's not really a starting caliber quarterback. Am I right in saying that?
I guess it depends on your definition of starting caliber. Is Daniel Jones a starting caliber?
No, I would
quarter. I could throw out a few other names, right? I think he's at least on par with those guys. But and listen, I'm not trying to sound like I'm trying to insult Mark Davis. If I was going to do that, I would have just talked about his haircut.
Yeah,
but I think the biggest thing, right, is what actually this hire is going to be, to me, is going to be really telling as to what kind of owner he is, which is why it's hard for me to even put it on the list, because Antonio Pierce should be the guy, and it's kind of no-brainer to the point, unless they can get an absolute bona fide veteran stud head coach to come in there, it should be Antonio Pierce. So if it's not, I think that you have to move Mark Davis to the cons list, which kind of contradicts the whole point of even having the list.
Yeah, I just spoiler alert. I do have Antonio Pierce as my Raiders coach. I'm going to read these comments before I get to number one and go over who I think will be coaching where. I'm calling it Derrick Henry to the Bills as a change of pace back to James Cook. That would be interesting. They got some cap issues in Buffalo, but if you can make it work, that would be a great 1-2 punch. I read this already, but you're right. The Chargers are a coach, but the salary cap is brutal. They're going to lose several players. That's why it's such a bad. It's something like 31 million over right now, and that's without signing somebody. So they're going to lose some players. Lamar left the game with so this is it. I don't actually remember this, to be honest with you. Lamar left the game with a concussion. A healthy Lamar with new offensive coordinator, 3 bona fide receivers, and number 1 defense. Top that with Dalvin Cook. We got Mark Andrews back today. Not happening. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, right now, 1 and 2 is Buffalo and Baltimore. We'll have to wait and see. If Dallas loses round 1, Belichick might be taken over there. There is some love between Belichick and Jerry Jones. There's a lot of respect and a lot of love. I would be shocked if that happened, but I've seen weirder things. Yeah, exactly, Funk. So the number 1 position I have is the Falcons. Keys, I know you had Washington is better than Atlanta, but what are your thoughts on? I mean, you would look at this as a good job? Am I correct?
Yeah, I mean, I would put them over the Panthers for sure, and some of the other teams you had on there. I mean, listen, if it's the right guy, which would probably be one of the offensive candidates, I think you could have some fun there with Kyle Pitts and Bijan, right? Like everybody's been waiting for. So I think that there are some pieces there for sure that could make it a fun job.
Yeah, I think so too. My pluses are you have a world-class owner. He's going to spend some money. You have some good draft picks, 8, 43, 74, and 79, 4 draft picks in the first 79. The secondary is loaded. The defense is not, but the secondary is good. You have Tyler Aguilar. I'm probably butchering the name. They do have a solid offensive line too, Fung. I'm butchering the name, but he had 1,000 yards as a rookie. Didn't play as much. I think the only reason the offense didn't run the ball better, and they still had a top 10 rushing offense, was because quarterback position. And they're in a good salary cap. I think they got something like $31 million to spend. The negatives is quarterback in front 7. Their leading sacker, well, they had 2 guys with 6.5, but Calais Campbell is free agent and he's 37. The other guy, I'm just drawing a complete Bud Dupree, over 30, 6.5 sacks. Size speed combinations off the chart, just can't stay healthy. For pros and cons, Keys, is there anything I left out? I should have put solid offensive line, like Funk said, but anything I'm missing?
Let's see. Did you get the division on there? Or do you can?
No, I did not. No, I did not, and I meant to. I dropped the ball there, but no, I meant to. I actually meant to. I just didn't. I don't know why I dropped the ball there. So,
good job, Kadarius.
My list sucks here, but that's kind of my list here. Keys, 7 head coaching positions here. For some reason, the slide that I put together of who's going where is not showing up. You sent me a message that yours isn't, so we're going to just do this verbally. We're going to do it orally and try to keep it clean here. How's this? I'll give you the team order that I have my list in, and why don't you give me your coaching candidate? First off, Los Angeles Chargers. Who do you have going?
Listen, I have basically every single candidate checked for the Los Angeles job. So I think it's really going to come down to, I'm not sure if they want to look offensively or defensively. I think they should look offensively, but, they still have enough defensive pieces that I would understand it. And especially with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes in the division. But I just think that you almost have to go offense here. And so, I don't have a number one per se, but maybe Eric Bieniemy, maybe Brian Callahan. I think it is, going from working with Peyton Manning in his time in coaching, then going to working with Joe Burrow, it can make some sense to bring him in to work with Justin Herbert. But that's the same reason that could also make him enticing to the Panthers to work with their number one quarterback pick. So
I had Brian Callahan. He has an AFC West background. The job that he did, and as you said many times, Joe Burrow's just a system quarterback. Imagine what you could do with Herbert. But Brian Callahan was my pick. I think you got to go with an offensive guy. A guy with an AFC West background, plus the Bengals have had some success with Kansas City. That was kind of my pick. Carolina Panthers. Who would you have as the guy going to Carolina Panthers?
And by the way, if he doesn't, Lou Anarumo makes a lot of sense there. For the
Don't be surprised. Maybe Lou Anarumo comes to the Chargers with him as the defensive coordinator, assistant head coach. I mean, that's we've seen weirder things happen. I doubt it, but I mean, That would suck for me. But
I wouldn't like it either. For the Panthers, I'm going a little left field here, and I have Bobby Slowick, the offensive coordinator for the Texans here.
That's a good one.
He just got done working with CJ Stroud. Once again, you have Bryce Young. You got to have someone to work with him, so why not?
I almost went there myself. I'm going a different name here. By the way, I put in parentheses should be Steve Wilks. And if I was Carolina, I would seriously just say, hey, I messed up. Come back. I'm going with Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. And there's about 50 million reasons why. And that's about as much money as Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson's number one name. The owner is going to have to put some money down. He doesn't have a problem doing that. I think that you have to go. I think you got to go with an offensive mind, even though normally it's if you hire an offensive coach. They've gone back-to-back offensive coaches after Riviera. Take the hottest name on the list, give them a boatload of money. Spoiler alert, I'm not sure it works, but I got Ben Johnson. But Bobby Slowick, I do have this going somewhere, but I don't have him going there. I already ruined it. I told you already. I got Dan Quinn going to Seattle. You have the same thing. Am I correct?
That was my number one. Yeah, I think there's more than one possibility. I think there could be a chance. It's someone like Mike Vrabel. Pete Carroll was a coach once upon a time at Ohio State, if I recall correctly. Mike Vrabel played at Ohio State once upon a time, and he was an assistant coach at Ohio State once upon a time. So there was that, alma mater connection there. So I think that could certainly be a possibility. But I had Dan Quinn as my number one choice for Seattle.
Next up is Tennessee Titans. I'm gonna start with this one here because I got Bobby Slowick going to the Titans, and the reason why is that even though they did the same thing with Vrabel, is that I think what you do is you poach a guy from the division winner. You look at how he was able to get Stroud. You're looking at Levis and thinking, hey, what if I can get the same guy? I'll be honest. I thought about Ben Johnson. I thought about Callahan. I know since they did this before, maybe they won't do it again. But I think Slowick's he's a hot name. I think he's going to get an offer. Who do you have for Titans?
Yeah, and again, I do have him as a possibility on that list. So I'll just the guys I have on there as a possibility for the Titans are Brian Flores, Steve Wilkes, Todd Monken, Bobby Slowick, and Eric Bieniemy. I have those 5 guys on there. I don't have one as a top choice. But if you push me to give you one, I would probably go with either Steve Wilkes or Eric Bieniemy.
Those are 2 good ones as well. I just think the division rival thing was interesting. Next up, Washington Commanders. Now this is your number 1 job. Who do you have going to the Washington Commanders?
This might be my smallest list. I have 3 guys on here, and I'm not saying that I'm right because we're talking about 7 positions, and there's at least 14 guys on my list who are very qualified guys. The only 3 I have on here is Bill Belichick, Jim Harbaugh, and Ben Johnson. And right now I have Ben Johnson on there is number 1. There's a lot of smoke for him there, and that's why he's on there. I think he would be more fun personally in Atlanta scheming up Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson, but there's a lot of Washington Commander smoke. So,
I actually, I'm sticking with this. I think it's going to be Bill Belichick. I know that they were public in saying that we're more about wins than putting butts in the seat. But I think that's bullshit. I think that they want to put butts in the seats. And I think the best way to do that is to get Bill Belichick on board. So I got Bill Belichick.
Does he want that, though? So here's my thought with Bill Belichick, why I didn't put him first. The way I think about it for Bill Belichick is he wants a team with a quarterback. He wants a team that's as close to ready as possible. And that's not Washington to me. And of course, who I have Bill Belichick going to is the Bills after they lose and fire Sean McDermott. Bill Belichick has been trying to figure out how to stop Josh Allen for 2 or 3 seasons now. Nobody knows how frustrating that is, just like it's frustrating to stop Patrick Mahomes more than Bill Belichick. So, it's one of those things where you have a great roster. They're second to Kansas City over the last 5 years or whatever. They are the team after Kansas City that's been to the playoffs the most consecutive seasons. You have Josh Allen. You have plenty of pieces on offense, plenty of pieces on defense. Part of the issue has been the coaching staff. And so, to me, if you're Bill Belichick, you keep hearing all this, can't win without Brady BS. You're 72 years old. Why the hell else are you coaching if it's not to try to win another Super Bowl, which means you're taking a team that's as close to getting there as possible. AKA, you're basically pulling a Tom Brady when he went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
That makes a lot of sense. The reason why I'm going to Washington is a lot of these reasons. Both of those defensive tackles went to the University of Alabama. Brian Robinson, also an Alabama guy. With the salary cap and the draft picks, you're going to poach a lot of former Patriots. And that's kind of what I see is just building a slightly Southern version of the Patriots. The quarterback, it would be interesting because you do go with a veteran, do you draft Caleb Williams, Dre May, or whatever, but that's what I have. So, and by the way, Cliff, it's just Keas thinks that when Buffalo loses, get Belichick. By the way, we're not ignoring these comments here. I'm just going to do the list now. Yeah, exactly. So, but we're not ignoring these comments. I'm just going through the list here. I already gave this answer away to Raiders. I have Antonio Pierce staying there. I think that He's interviewing. They're going to bring in some guys and everything, but I think it'll be Antonio Pierce. Keys, who do you think the Raiders will end up getting?
I think it will be Antonio Pierce, and it should be. The only thing that's interesting to me is that they even gave the Chargers permission to interview him. So maybe they're doing their due diligence, but to me, it should be pretty much a no-brainer. And I'm not letting another team interview him if I'm confident he's my guy. So
what the Patriots did with Mayo should have been kind of what the Raiders did. But I think when everything's said and done, he'll stay with the Raiders. The final position available, the Atlanta Falcons. Who do you have going to Atlanta?
Yeah, let me pull it back up here. I believe I already said Ben Johnson would be the funnest.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. I mean, you got to get a quarterback, but you have some cap room. You pick, I think it's 8th overall, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
right? Yeah, 8th.
I'll throw this one out here. This one might be a little crazy because we got to get some of these guys, some of these top guys into a head coaching position. But I'm going to throw one outside of the box here, especially if the Ravens make as big of a run as the Ravens fans in your chat think. This guy, first off, the Atlanta Falcons play in the state of Georgia. This guy just came from being a coach for Georgia, Todd Monken.
Wow. That's a good one.
Who's seen him up close to scout him as a coach more than the Atlanta Falcons in their own backyard?
That's a good one. That's even more left field than my pick. I have a really crazy one. I have Mike Vrabel.
I don't think that's crazy.
Okay, well, good. I thought it sounded nuts. The reason why I like Vrabel is that, and I want to pull this back up here. The reason why I like Vrabel is that the defense will be world class. He'll bring some of those defensive studs with him, and then you got a good running game, which is a Vrabel staple. All you got to do is get the quarterback, and I think you can do that with the draft. Because seriously, you could, if you're Atlanta, you wouldn't have a problem giving up next year's number one if you can get the guy that you want. But I got Vrabel going to Atlanta. So, Cliff, the answer to your question is Michigan. I liked Harbaugh taking the Bears job, and I think that there'll be a lot of Harbaugh talk, just like there was last year, just like there was the year before. I think he stays right there at Michigan for one more year. I think when the Bears job becomes available and they give him like $25 million a year or something insane, then he'll go. Keys, where is Harbaugh going?
Please I think that's fair enough. Like I said, I got 14 guys on my list here. I only had him listed for four jobs: Commanders, Panthers, Chargers, and Seahawks. Was it you or maybe it was Gooch that was talking about him not wanting to coach in the same conference as his brother?
That was Gooch. I really don't think he cares. To tell you the truth, I think he'd rather coach in the AFC than in the NFC, because I think that ate him up that he had to play his little brother in the Super Bowl. I think he'd rather coach in the AFC. I think that perfect place for Harbaugh would be the Chargers, because I think he would do wonders with the quarterback with Herbert. But I just can't see. Harbaugh's a guy that everywhere he goes, he has struggles with ownership or with top brass with the Michigan. I just don't see him and the owner going eye to eye. And same thing with Mark Davis. I just don't see him, because he's going to want some player control. He's not really going to want to answer the general manager. So, Cliff, I have him staying in Michigan for one more year. But I think if the Bears job becomes open, then I think he goes to Chicago. Funk says, where do you have Aaron Glenn going? I know that the players voted him the player they'd like the most play for. I'm sorry, man. I don't see a great defense there in Detroit. I mean, I'm not saying he's a bad defensive coordinator, but like, I mean, me and Keys are both high on Amaruno.
If you're talking defensive guys, Belichick, Vrabel, Mike McDonald, Brian Flores, Steve Wilkes, Lou Anarumo, Antonio Pierce, Dan Quinn, and even Anthony Weaver.
Yeah, Anthony Weaver was a name I didn't have on here, and Anthony Weaver may be a surprise candidate to some, but he's thought very highly in NFL circles.
That's 9 defensive guys.
Yeah, and all those guys I think are easily better than Aaron Glenn. As now, keep in mind a lot of it has to do with the interview process. Keep in mind Andy Reid, when he interviewed for the Eagles job, he was an afterthought. He was like head coach. They had him at number 7. They came with you can look this up. You don't believe me. He came with this binder of like top 10 assistants, top 10 position coaches, and they were just so blown away. The rumor was with Eric Bieniemy was that he interviews terribly. A lot of it has to do with the interview. Maybe he knocks it out of the park. Maybe he doesn't. My impression is that Aaron Glenn is just not going to interview well, just from what little I've seen of him. That's just kind of my impression. I don't know. But I have Aaron Glenn. I have Ben Johnson leaving. I have Aaron Glenn staying. Keys, where do you have Aaron Glenn going?
Yeah, I have him staying. And listen, I don't think we're discounting that. You don't necessarily have to be the offensive or defensive coordinator to be the head coach. You have John Harbaugh's, that can do it. So, we're not saying, and listen, by the way, I don't necessarily think it's a wrong approach to take a guy who's a great leader of men, which, by the way, I do think Eric Bieniemy is. I don't think it's wrong necessarily to take one of those guys and make them your head coach, but I think you already have to have the pieces there, or they have to have some, they have to have just have a hell of a connection to an offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator, guys to assemble their staff around them who are willing to do that for them, because you're not going to hire him to be your head coach / defensive coordinator above these other 8 guys that I just named. But maybe as a leader of men, possibly. But even then, we named most of those guys are still better leaders of men. Bill Belichick, Mike Vrabel clearly are. Steve Wilkes should have never got fired. I don't think it's hard to say he is. I don't know about Dan Quinn, but there's a reason that Anthony Weaver is the assistant head coach in Baltimore as their defensive line coach. I think it's clear to say he's a better, and if you're going to go that route, Kansas City has a defensive coordinator who's a great leader of men, has been a head coach, has had to be an interim head coach, and has a top defense right now, and Steve Spagnuolo, who would still be a hell of a better candidate than
you know how much interest is coming from Steve Spagnuolo to be an NFL head coach. In case you can't see that, it's 0. Nobody wants Spags to be a head coach, and that what he's done has been pretty first rate. Cliff says Belichick's more likely to go to Kansas City than Buffalo. I don't think so. I think Belichick would love to go to Buffalo, and there are some issues with McDermott. I mean, granted, when he fired, I almost called him Bernie Kosar, but I don't know why I called him Bernie Kosar. It kind of looks like Bernie Kosar, an old school reference there, but McDermott's kind of a flinty personality. You never know. Funk says Ben going there even when Smith wasn't getting fired. There's a lot of talk about Ben Johnson going to Atlanta, and I think that would be a lot of fun. I think that the only keep in mind, Arthur Blank's loaded too. I mean, both these guys are 2 of the richer owners in the NFL, but I really think that the Panthers want to make more of a splash and a big name hire because of all the negative things that have been going on with the Panthers organization. So I see them going with the hottest name, where I see Atlanta trying to go with the best fit. And like I said, I thought Keas would look at me like I've been snorting coke all day or something, but instead he thought Vrabel was good. But Ben Johnson would be a lot of fun in Atlanta. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I mean, Vrabel was a name that popped up in my head even as I was getting ready to say it, and I had him on there. I had 3 teams for Vrabel: the Falcons, the Chargers, and the Seahawks. That's it, just those 3 teams. So,
HMM. I don't know what that means. No, the Bills would never hire Belichick. He's not fit the city of Buffalo at all, and they are not going to lose. They are going to the Super Bowl and beat the tar out of the Cowboys, Niners, or Lions. I will disagree with you that the city of Buffalo would not hire Belichick. I 100% disagree with that. But as far as the Bills, I mean, we still got the playoffs. And this is a really good point. If the Bills can limit their mistakes, they're in really good shape. I mean, it's kind of funny. Allen does this. He has like 1 or 2 turnovers every game, and he comes back and plays lights out. Brett Favre used to do that, and they would win a lot of games, even though Brett Favre would have I remember out at Arrowhead, he had a game where he threw a couple interceptions, and then just came back in the second half, threw some crazy passes that worked and panned out. But I mean, hey, look, I mean, we still got a whole playoffs thing to go. But yeah, I'm going to go over all the playoffs games. I'm going to go over my predictions too. Casey Fins in Germany's on right now. Yeah. I mean, it should be. I'm going to go over all these games too. I never thought Glenn was a good defensive coordinator, but he has the head coach vibe. I said that for a while now. I think Aaron Glenn would be a better – you have been saying that, and some people are better head coaches than offensive coordinators or defensive coordinators. I don't have him as a head coach in this cycle, but I'm not saying he'd never be a head coach. I just out of the names that you got, I just don't see it. Frank Wright ends up in Buffalo as the quarterback coach or offensive coordinator. I think he ends up back in Philly. I really do. I think he ends up in Philly. Andy Reid's getting fat enough to retire. Yeah, I know Cliff. Yeah, Cliff had some fun here. So I'm gonna go over the playoff games here. I'm going to go over to over-unders, kind of give you where the betting public's at. Please check out my video. The link's below. Also, if you're not subscribed to the BAK Talk Brothers, your 2024 will suck, even though I put down watch my video. Also, how to stay warm at Arrowhead. It's a crucial video. And by the way, it does not include cardboard. So please don't think that you're bringing cardboard to Arrowhead and you're going to stay warm. All right, please don't do that. I'm begging you. I keep seeing it over and over and over again on social media. You need more than cardboard. I'm telling you, this is, if you don't watch the video, heavy duty, insulated, waterproof hunting boots is the number one thing that you need. All right, please do not get frostbite out at Arrowhead. I will be very upset. I'll be doing play-by-play Saturday. Also, I don't have the link set up. I forgot to do that. Also, too jacked up. You're right, Funk. Too many guys don't have the right stuff to be the head coach, but end up there doing to the Peter Principle. What is the Peter Principle?
That's the idea that people in the hierarchy end up getting promoted to a point that keep getting promoted up until the point, and they stop at the point that they're no longer competent. So they actually end up with jobs they're not competent for. They don't get raises above that, but they make it to a job they're not competent for.
Okay. Baked potato. I never knew about baked potatoes, but so on social media, a lot of people are going to Chiefs games saying, "I got my cardboard, I'm ready," and it's like, look, it's going to be single digits without the wind chill. You need more than cardboard.
Maybe they don't have tickets yet, and they're going with cardboard. Letting people know that they need tickets.
That's not a bad idea. Yeah, like, hey, I need tickets. I got cardboard. Yeah.
Well, for a sign,
I didn't know this about baked potatoes, man. I didn't know this about baked potatoes, but if you, I have a video how to stay warm at Arrowhead, but the number one thing is heavy duty insulated waterproof hunting boots. Number one.
Wasn't there a baked potato story from like the playoffs a couple years ago?
I don't remember that.
Was it the Bills or?
This is pretty awesome, though. I'm this. I wish I would have known this because I would have promoted this, but I've never heard of that before. But yeah, it's going to be a brutally cold game at Arrowhead. So yeah, please dress warm. Do more than cardboard. You're going to need it. I'm going to go over all the games here. I'll go Chiefs first. Let's just, because we've been talking Chiefs here. I got a couple prop bets for the Chiefs game. I use DraftKings. So Cliff, you mentioned 5-4. You mentioned 5-4. DraftKings opened up at 3.5. It's now 4.5. I predicted over under would plummet below 44. It's only dropped half a point. It's now 43.5. The Chiefs line has gone up from 3.5 to 4.5. Action's going towards Kansas City. People are kind of seeing a low scoring game, but there's not heavy action on it. I said this on the BAK Talk Brothers. I'm bringing this up right now. By the way, somebody in my chat had asked about a player prop for the game. And I said, Isaiah Pacheco over 59.5 rushing yards. Bet it and bet it now because it's going to go up. That number is now 66.5. I still like it though. Isaiah Pacheco over 67 yards. That is my number one bet for the game. I also like I'm drawing up. Okay, here it is. This number's gone up slightly, but it's still a good number. Travis Kelce over 57.5. I know that it's going to be below freezing, so that number, a lot of people think it's not going to be. Travis Kelce will have over 60 yards receiving in this game. I feel pretty good about that, but I feel more confident about Isaiah Pacheco. Keys, what are your thoughts on my two bets? And how do you see this Chiefs-Dolphins game going?
Yeah, I would take both of those. I think with the weather, everyone's expecting a lot of running. The Chiefs would be better if they were running the ball under center and doing a lot more play action pass. But, I think Travis doesn't play last week. He's been playing injured all season after missing the first game of the season. I don't think he was ever right the whole season, with the way the wide receivers were week one. I think that kind of pushed everyone to rush him back maybe a little bit before he was ready. And I don't think he ever got to 100%. So, hopefully there'll be some rest there. Hopefully, it seems in a chunk of ways that the Chiefs coaching staff treated the week 18 game against the Chargers as their bye week. So hopefully, we see a little bit of a rejuvenated offense there. So
that's kind of what I'm seeing. Just FYI, I don't know I don't think Kelce had big numbers against the Dolphins in Germany, but Pacheco had 16 carries, 66 yards. When the Chiefs played the Dolphins earlier this year, the Dolphins defense was a lot healthier, and the Chiefs offense, as the season progresses, they've run the ball more and more. I wouldn't be surprised if Pacheco goes over 100 and Kelce gets close to 100 in this game. I had a few moments. I had a few brain freezes here and there. Your service. Cliff, you're not putting action on this game, are you? Funk says layers keep you warm for sure. Okay, so by the way, in my video, I talk about my standard 5, and the first 4 go into the belt, and then you can go from there. But yeah, hats also work. But yeah, there's so many people out there. There's so many Chiefs fans out there that are thinking that they're just going to wear a coat, bring cardboard, and they're going to be good. And And by the way, it's just the temperature single digits. It's not even including the wind chill. It's brutal. Like, so that's why I'm kind of adamant about this. So yeah. It's science. Science shows that women like me find men who subscribe to this channel 280% more attractive, and they get sex every day, guaranteed, or you can sue Dan. Yes. 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 It's science, folks. It's science. By the way, side note here, Keys, the beard is awesome. I'm so jealous.
It grows itself.
I can't grow facial hair. I look really weird with facial hair. I shave. Little side note here, I shave before each show. Every time I go on, I shave right before I come on. I don't look good with facial hair. You, however, no homo here, look fantastic with the beard. The beard looks great. So I used to do demo and it gets so, oh yeah. You got to layer up. That in my video I call it the standard 5, and I do 5 layers. The first 4 go into the belt, and the way I describe it is perfect. Yeah, people here are bringing cardboard and thinking they're going to be good, and I'm begging people not to do it. Keys, Chiefs 4.5-point favorites, up from 3.5. Cliff says his service has he's not betting on it, but his service has 4. How do you see this game going?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. To me, it all comes down to what the coaching staff makes their game plan off of, right? The Chiefs did a great job through 3 quarters against the Dolphins, but the Dolphins made some adjustments in the 4th quarter, and they made it, at least on paper, they made it look like a closer game than it was most of the game. So for me, the Chiefs have to have their game plan built around the adjustments the Dolphins made in the 4th quarter, and not necessarily fall back on the first 3 quarters. As far as the running game, right? Because I think that's where the adjustments came for the Dolphins offense. Obviously you have pretty much the same game plan on defense as you did the first time around. I will say though, for all the Tyreek Hill versus L'Jarius Sneed talk, the first time around, and all the L'Jarius Sneed and Tyreek Hill talk this time around, that's not how Bill Belichick would do it. Bill Belichick put his number 2 cornerback on Tyreek Hill and gave him his safety help. And then he put his number 1 on the other team's number 2 receiver. So does Spags do something like that? Is L'Jarius Sneed going to stay on Tyreek Hill the whole time? I think it comes down to their comfort level with the cornerbacks and their ability to press, because that's the key, right? Everyone knows Tua gets the ball out 2.5 seconds. And so it's not necessarily about the defensive line getting the pass rush. It's about jamming their guys and being able to do it. I think that's the biggest matchup. And if you didn't see it, Dan Orlovsky put it out there what the Chiefs were using as a tell in the first game, right? Because they realized, and it should be even worse. So I don't know what Mike McDaniel will do about this, but the tell was the defense could key on whatever offensive player was turning to Tua, because they couldn't hear. They had to look at Tua to see when he wanted them to go into motion. And when they turned to look at him, when they positioned themselves to look at Tua, that's how the defense knew what guy was going to come in motion, right? Arrowhead's going to be louder, I think, even with the cold weather. Well, here's why I think it will be, right? All the money bag people who come for the playoff experience, who've made Arrowhead less louder over Patrick Mahomes' time here, those guys are too big of wusses to come to this game. Like, it is going to be the diehard fans who are paying to come to this game. It's just a question of how many of them. But I think that as less and less people are likely to come, that all of a sudden tickets get cheaper and cheaper, so the crazy people can afford to go all of a sudden. So that's my hope, that we still get it as close to full as possible. And so yeah, I think those are the things, though. Like, we have some stuff that they were doing in the run game in the fourth quarter that were starting to work really well. And so, I hope we're ready for that. I know that, Mike Pennell has kind of been a guy that they've brought up against running teams here lately. We saw some Neil Farrell week 18 matchup against the Chargers. So I think they have some things that they're working on, but I think all in all, better quarterback, better tight end, better offensive line, better defensive line, better head coach. Definitely so. And, you could argue that Steve Spagnuolo is the better defensive coordinator, and that's not, how much respect I have for Vic Fangio. But if we're talking Super Bowl rings, Steve Spagnuolo has what, 3 of them? And one of them came against Tom Brady.
Yeah, he's got 4 actually.
4.
Yeah. Cliff says, I'm not sure the weather. I don't think it is either. I'll be honest with you. So I'm looked at the injury report, because here's what we have. Mostert is questionable. Waddle's questionable. Holland is questionable. Elliott's questionable. The running back position is something that I really worry about, because Devin Archain played at Texas A&M. He's been banged up. How is he going to handle the coldest game of his career? And he's a track dude. He's a smaller guy. If you got to get, by the way, I love his game. Is this the game that, hey, look, he needs to take over, have 25 to 30 touches? If the weather will affect a guy like that, I don't care what anybody says. He's going to be affected. Some of these other guys may not be. He's going to be affected, and I can see him fumbling. He could also have a big, like, 70-yard run too. It was kind of funny, because when I was watching Bills Dolphins, it looked like the Bills defense had more players from warmer states than the Dolphins. It's not an automatic win, but I do think it's an advantage, plus everything that Keas said. I would be really shocked, Cliff, if the Chiefs did not win this game.
Yeah, it's not an automatic win, but, at -30, it's definitely going to be a mental thing. Like, there's no way. I've lived in the Midwest all but 7 years of my life. So, over more than 3 decades. Dan, you've lived in the Midwest, I'm assuming close to 5 decades or so.
Very close.
And so, part of it is the mental. Part of it is, if the Dolphins legitimately have that many guys who are injured, I think that it can't help but impact them in a negative way. But yeah, it's not just, here's what the thermostat says, we're not even going to play this game. I mean, nothing works like that. Even stats and records. Oh, this team is 35-0 when they run the ball for 200 yards. It doesn't work like that. And no, we're not saying it does, but it's definitely going to have an effect. And I think probably the biggest place, weather-wise, the Chiefs have an advantage. Their equipment guys. They know what the hell to do. They know how to have their guys layered up. They know all the tricks. Dolphins guys, and I'm not saying Mike McDaniel isn't savvy. He's always looking for all the little things.
He's a smart guy. I mean, yeah, we're not.
He could be calling, Mike Shanahan for all we know, right? Mike Shanahan's probably got some, tips there. But, at the end of the day, I think the biggest difference is we already saw the defense stifle the Dolphins for the most part in Germany. This is going to be a game where we're not sure how the speed guys respond to the cold. We're not even sure how they're going to respond to getting hit. And when your receivers are dealing with leg issues, we're not sure how that's going to affect them. But to me, the biggest thing is the Dolphins defense. Losing Bradley Chubb and Andrew Van Ginkel are freaking huge. Andrew Van Ginkel's, is it sacks or pressures per snap? Like, he was top 5 or 6 in the NFL. They've lost these guys. They've lost pieces all throughout their defense. And their answer is Melvin Ingram and Justin Houston, which I think is advantage Chiefs because Donovan Smith is back. If you have a younger guy who's an athletic freak, I think that's advantage to Dolphins there, right? Donovan Smith going against Andrew Van Ginkel, Bradley Chubb, those kind of guys, that's advantage Dolphins. If Wanye Morris is the starting left tackle, that's advantage Dolphins because they have, even against Justin Houston and Melvin Ingram, because they have that veteran savvy. But Donovan Smith is a Super Bowl winner too. He's a longtime veteran. He has that veteran savvy. It's basically, it's like the offensive and defensive version of guys going up against each other there. And to me, at best for the Dolphins and their pass rush, that's a draw.
No, I completely agree with you. Cliff says they're all playing. Mostert is a monster. Waddle's playing. I'm a huge Jalen Waddle fan. Every time I watch Miami, I'm blown away how much I like this guy. He's been banged up. Mostert, that's going to be a big plus too, because if you got to give 25, 30 carries to a rookie who's a smaller dude, it's going to be a problem, even though I love Devin Archain, don't get me wrong. But they are playing. That's good to know. I have a hard time taking Danny O seriously. He's not stupid, and he does his job well, but the dude's safety, yeah, he'll never live that down. I mean, it's one of those clips where you'll see over and over and over again. I actually really like him. I really do. I mean, it's kind of funny because, like, the first thing you think of, 30 years from now, that will be the first thing you think of, like, of him running, 9 yards out of the end zone or whatever the fuck it was. Ticket price, I don't know. I haven't been looking. I'm going to do play-by-play. I should have had the link ready to go. I didn't have it set up yet. That's on me, but ticket price, I don't know. I actually think it's kind of high. Believe it. Listen, there's a lot of talk on social media. People are, selling out hand warmers, all sorts of stuff. So, I mean, I think the ticket prices are actually high. The weather will not keep fans away. And I think Keas is right. The more crazies are going to be out there. Oh, it's going to be rocking. It's going to be rocking. Jay Cruz in 71. Yeah, thanks, brother, man. I really appreciate it. By the way, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the BAK Talk Brothers. It's a great channel. I really enjoyed the show he had with Gooch and Aaron on Wednesday. So, man, Funk, thanks for the love, man. Yeah, playing is one thing. Making it the whole game without leaving is another thing altogether. By the way, both ESPN and our lads has nobody backing up Roquan Davis, the nose tackle. That could be a problem. That could be a problem, especially if the Chiefs are running the ball and running the ball effectively. That could be a huge problem. Or better yet, maybe the Chiefs spread things out and want to throw the ball around. Big advantage. This is why I like the Chiefs. Injuries favor Kansas City. You have a banged up team, just bringing in bodies. No, and give I just had my McDaniel a lot of credit. Yeah, I mean, done a good job this year for all the players they lost. Let's go back to the first game. Cleveland against Houston. Houston's a 3-point. Opened up. I'm sorry. By the way, all these numbers are DraftKings, Cliff. Whatever service you have or you're using, unless it's a local casino, I probably have an account too. I can log in to any one of them. I just picking stuff from DraftKings. I don't have an association with them. The website's easy. I just click a few buttons and I'm there. Houston opened up as a 3-point dog. The over-under is 44. It's now 2. So people are out of all the games here. This one in Buffalo has been bet the most or the biggest change, and over-unders jumped up to 44.5. So action is favoring a little higher scoring of a game. 44 is a low number for an NFL game, but you have two good defenses. And then you also have a little action going towards Houston. I predict Houston will win. Keas says bet your life savings on Cleveland.
That's your life savings. You got to bet Dan's life savings.
So, Keas, what are your thoughts on Houston and Cleveland? And are you surprised the betting public likes Houston, or has been betting on Houston? I mean, they're still a 2-point home dog.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. You know, I'll double down on that though. Not only bet Dan's life savings, but under his mattress is his hooker savings. So go into his apartment, take his hooker money, and bet that as well on the Browns.
All right. That's kind of I got a couple upset picks. Houston's one of them, but I have to admit I'm kind of surprised because like Cleveland's been like a team that's been called a sleeper Super Bowl team, and the defense is amazing. I love Amari Cooper. I always loved Amari Cooper. I forget what school he went to. Gooch would probably say he went to Auburn. That's Gooch's school. So Funk says Danny O's safety was part of 0-16 Lions, so it sort of helped out this current team. If he was any good, they don't get Stafford. Without Stafford, Holmes says that. So thanks, Danny. I forgot he was part of the 0-16 team. I forgot about that. I like him, by the way. I like him. Don't touch the big brother. Oh God, fuck, damn.
Yep, Danwich, making a Danwich.
All right, I'm gonna try not to. All right, try to get going here. Okay. The other game that's been bet, but different reasons here. Pittsburgh at Buffalo. Buffalo opened up as a 10-point favorite. Over under 35.5. There is some heavy wind, but the temperature is actually in the 30s. It's just high wind. Buffalo's dropped from a 10-point favorite to a 9-point favorite. The over-under is 33.5, a comically low number. Keas, what are your thoughts on this game, Buffalo-Pittsburgh? Let me throw this out. Does Pittsburgh have a chance?
Oh, I absolutely think they do. And, you know, and I'm not saying that to disrespect the Bills, because I think basically every team in the playoffs here who is the underdog has a legitimate chance to win for the most part this weekend. And so I'm not trying to slight anybody, but I think the Steelers have a decent shot at this. If it's a windy game, I think that only helps because passing games not necessarily their strength. I mean, on one hand, Josh Allen can throw hard enough that you wouldn't think it would affect him as much as most other quarterbacks, but the wind is still going to have an effect on his accuracy in the game. The biggest thing's always going to come down to, though, stopping him with your feet. I think Pittsburgh could have the guys who could do that.
You know Watt's not playing, right?
What's that?
You know Watt's not playing, right?
Yeah, and what, Gabe Davis isn't playing either, right?
Almost the same quality player.
But no, not close, not even close. But you still have Alex Highsmith, right? And,
Pittsburgh's littered with injuries, but both teams. This game is moved to Monday. I didn't know that this game was moved to Monday, or is this a possibility? Because I've heard this also, but I didn't know it was moved. I thought it was still being played Sunday.
And play in the snow. If the Chiefs and Dolphins can play in negative 30 degree wind chills, they can play in the snow.
It's just the wind. I mean, look, listen, I get it. You get the wind. It's brutal. I get that. got to play ball outside, man. I mean, look, if you don't want to put a dome up there, then play in the elements,
Right.
man. Have some fun with it. But that's the reason why the over under is 33.5, a comically low number. I have this game as Pittsburgh covering the spread. I think Buffalo wins. I think Keys nailed it. Josh Allen's going to scramble around enough to cause enough problems. The kicking game is going to affect things. I remember this. This was a while back. And then I remember they also had to move the Vikings game because the hole in the roof too. But I personally think that could be moved. Okay, I'm sorry, but I think they'll play the game Sunday at noon. It'll just be miserable, but I think it's going to be a low scoring Bills win. Keys, you're on board with that, right?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun game to watch. And as far as the weather goes, I'm right there with you. Why are you building another open air stadium if this is your concern? And if you don't want to do a dome stadium, do a rolling roof. They talked about that for years in Kansas City.
Yeah, the taxpayers voted a big no-go on that. And it was like taxpayers like, absolutely not. We don't want to spend that. It was like 0.4% of a penny, or it was something really minor too.
I thought it was a cool idea because that idea, it was supposed to have a track, if I recall correctly, between Kaufman and Arrowhead so that both could basically be indoor stadiums when you needed them to be.
Yeah, that's what they were trying to do, and the taxpayers voted a big no. When I did my video, I saw that there was wind, but it was supposed to be 30 degrees. That may have changed, but I saw 30 degrees, so it's just going to be high wind. But I'll be honest with you, the worse the weather is, I think it's a bigger advantage for Pittsburgh because, I mean, you got two running backs, more of a power game. But we'll see what happens. But I'm really looking forward to that game, man. And I'm with you, Funk. If you want weather games, deal with them. I mean, look, Detroit put a dome on, and there's been some Super Bowls up in Detroit. So, yeah. The lake, yeah. By the way, I've been up to Green Bay in February, and that sucks balls. I mean, it's just miserable. Like when the wind whips, there's nothing you can do. I mean, you're just fucking cold. And those people are out in snow machines driving along the road. It's fucking weird, but I mean, yeah. The next game, Green Bay at Dallas. Dallas opened up 7.5-point favorite. It's now at 7. I'll be honest, the only reason I think that the line dropped down is because they saw 7 in the hook. The over-under's at 50.5. That hasn't been affected. Keys, let me ask you this here. How does Green Bay win this game, and how much of a chance do they have?
They win this game if Dak turns the ball over, if we see playoff Dak. I don't think they have a big shot to win this game. I think they could, but I don't think they're going to. I think those are two different things. But what would stop me from saying it with certainty would be Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott. Like, to me, if Green Bay wins, it's because of those two guys. Because I think Dallas should win this game. And again, not that Green Bay can't play great when their coaches, really, really scout a team and dig deeply like they did against the Lions and the Chiefs. If they come out like that, they could certainly win this game. But, outside of that, I think that Dallas on both sides of the ball, is clearly the better team. And as much as I don't trust McCarthy and Dak, I think they're still the better head coach quarterback combo in the game.
No, I agree. I think the only way Green Bay wins this game is Aaron Jones, the last 3 games, had over 100 yards rushing. AJ Dillon, I believe, is also coming back. You got to run the ball heavy against that fast Dallas defense. You got to control the clock, and make this a short game. I don't even if Green Bay wins this game, I don't see where I would be floored even if Green Bay wins this game in an upset that Jordan Love outplays Dak. But if Dak has a playoff meltdown, I mean, heads could torn. I love this comment here. I'm torn between wanting to see Dallas lose after what happened week 17 and my hatred for Green Bay. I'll be honest with you. If I was a Lions fan, I'd kind of want another shot at Dallas. So I would be pulling for Dallas. That's my thought process. But yeah, Cliff, I don't see Green. I would be out of these NFC games. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer here. I mean, the point spreads say it all. It's 7.5, 3.5, and 3. Green Bay, I think this is the easiest one to call, to be honest with you. A dome in Buffalo would cost between $2 and $2.5 billion. Yeah, it would, and I don't know the revenue. I know Kansas City just like it wasn't even close. They promoted a rolling roof, and it wasn't that much of a tax increase, but taxpayers are adamant that they wanted nothing to do with that. So, but yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, you would get Buffalo would, if they put a dome there, they would eventually get a Super Bowl. I think the Super Bowl are lined up to like 2028 or something like that, but they would eventually get one.
I think that's your biggest incentive, and I would imagine it would be more than one, over the next 20 years or so, 15, 20 years. I don't think that's crazy to say, and estimates are that a Super Bowl brings in $300 to $500 million, in revenue of people coming there. Of course, it's not the dream destinations like the warmer weather places, but even Minnesota reportedly brought in $450 million. So, I mean, there's something to it that you're definitely giving up.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, it would be expensive, but you would bring a lot of revenue in, and you definitely would get a Super Bowl. Cliff says Dallas -7 is his favorite bet. What do you think about this one, Keys?
I can understand it. With your money, maybe I do it.
It's a big number. I wouldn't do 7 in the hook, but I like it. I think Dallas wins by 10. I think Dallas wins by double digits. Speaking of a second home game for the Lions, Rams at Detroit. Detroit opened up as a 3.5-point favorite. Over-unders at 51.5. The Lions dropped slightly to 3. I'm not surprised about that. Same thing, the hook. By the way, for those of you that don't do sports betting, the difference between 3.5 and 3 is not just a half a point. It's massive. Same thing with 7.5. That's why I'm not surprised the hook. For those of you who don't know, the hook is slang for that half a point. That will bite you in the ass so many times. So I'm not surprised about that at all. To tell you the truth, I actually thought the line would drop a little more. LA's a hop, skip, and a jump away from Vegas. LA's a major media market. People like the Rams. The Rams are hot right now. Keys, how do you see this game here? Do the Rams go to Detroit? I know you had the Lions as your NFC pick to go to the Super Bowl. Do the Rams have a chance here?
Yeah, like I said earlier, every team that is playing this weekend has a chance. We've seen way too much craziness, especially over the last 2, 3, 4, 6 weeks, to where I don't think you can say, yeah, this team is vastly better than that team. They're definitely going to win the game. Yeah, they might have more talent. Yeah, their coaches might be better. But if anything, looking at this season, like the parity in the NFL seems to be up a lot, right? The distance between the top team and the 8th or 10th or 12th team, the lowest playoff team, the participation trophy, NFC South, it is, I think, smaller than the gap between Carolina and that next tier or two. So sure, it can happen. I personally think the Lions are going to win, and I know that's not a surprise to you because preseason I picked week 1 to be the precursor to the Super Bowl with the rematch of Lions and Chiefs. And listen, I'll understand an argument for the Rams, and I'm not gonna argue back and forth that I'm right in this. I think that's the way it's going to be, but I can understand and I can accept arguments for the Rams winning this game.
No, I think the Rams have been a very hot team. And their only loss was an overtime loss in Baltimore in a torrential downpour. I think that this should have been the game that should have been on Monday. I mean, they're saving this one for Sunday night. I could be mistaken on this, but I thought the biggest media day would be Monday. Not Sunday night, but I think that they're anticipating Sunday night. That's why this one's getting the Sunday night one. I'm sorry, Lions fans. I like the Rams. I think the Rams, I like the McVay, Stafford, head coach quarterback combo a little better. This is going to be a fun game. Funk says I'm a little interested in over 51.5. Yeah, and by the way, I think a shootout favors the Lions. I might feel a little different if Laporta was 100%. Yeah, it is a huge media game. It's going to be. This is the game that I really, really am excited. I picked the Rams, but this was really, really hard. Kevin asked San Francisco best in the NFC, the AFC. For me, it's Ravens and Niners are the two best. You seeing the same thing, Keas, or?
Yeah, especially the way they are, the way they've been playing. I would say so. Necessarily the most talent. I think that's a different question because if last year's Super Bowl teams were to flip the switch, I think they're automatically right there, in the discussion. And I understand, there might be 3 or 4 other teams. The Bills, as I've talked about for a few weeks now, have been coming on hot. Dallas fans could make some of their arguments, but I think it's clearly those two teams. And like I said, if the Eagles or Chiefs flipped a switch, they would be right there. And you could make a case for putting Buffalo right there, nipping at their heels as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I agree completely. That's how I have. The Trek reviewer says, keep in mind, New York City tends to control taxes in the New York State, so Western New York tends to get very little. Plus, there's not enough infrastructure above, so they would make it work. I mean, you have to understand. This would go like they have the Super Bowl list all the way to like 2028 or 2029. So Buffalo, if they put a dome on in the 2026, they would probably get the Super Bowl like in 2032. They would plan it out 6-7 years in advance. They would be able to get it turned around. Funk says I'm a little interested in over, but 3 points is a coin flip, and the Rams are on a hot streak. Plus, the Lions struggle with top end wide receivers. This game could get ugly, even with the All Pros on Detroit. Yeah, that's kind of what I looked at. Is that I'm looking at Stafford, Cooper Kupp's healthy, Nada. You know what? With all the things I had going on, the NFL All Pro list came out. Amon-Ra St. Brown made it, and he deserved to. I was going to go over that list. Actually, I do got one question for Keas. Trent McDuffie made first team All Pro as a slot corner. Snead didn't get first or second team. What's your thoughts on both of those?
It's a little confusing to have McDuffie on and not have Snead on. There's so many metrics that you can use. There's the eyeball test. There's the different metrics that, look at how often a cornerback is lined up against another team's number one wide receiver. And then it looks at, the separation between them, which I think should tell you a whole hell of a lot, right? If a guy is going up against another team's number one receiver, a much higher percentage of all these other guys. And I think Snead was with one other cornerback. I can't think of who it was right now, but they were the two who were lined up against number one wide receivers the most at over over 40%, 45%. And they still had, high grades in this, which I think you should tell people. The eye test should tell people something. And so I think all in all, it's kind of crazy, and makes it kind of in some way seem like it's a popularity test contest in the way of some guys who might have been all pro in the past, and are still playing at a high level, definitely not anywhere close to L'Jarius Sneed level, still made the list.
Yeah, I don't get me wrong, I love Trent McDuffie, but I would not. I mean, if I had to choose which corner I wanted more, McDuffie or Sneed, I would put Sneed, and I wouldn't even think twice about it. I got the corners. I found the list here. Taron Johnson, would you put him over McDuffie? I might. But I wouldn't put him over Sneed. So, and Taron Johnson out of Buffalo, he was second. He was a second team all pro. So I got the list here. Didn't I see Pat Surtain made it? I like him, but he wasn't. No, he did not. So here's the first team. Deron Bland for Dallas, Sauce Gardner, and then McDuffie's the slot, which I'll be honest, kind of surprised me. Second team corners, Jalen Johnson for the Bears, Charvarius Ward, and Taron Johnson was the slot. Surtain didn't make it, but I'll tell you what, I saw. I'm a homer here, but Sneed's I think better than Johnson and Ward. I'm sorry, I'm probably a homer. So
and to McDuffie's defense, he is a great tackler. He's great at closing on the ball, and he's very not just instinctual. Like, you can tell he puts a lot of work into his film study. Like, he's great at knowing what's coming. And so, in a way, I can understand that part of it. But if you're going to ask me which one of those two guys, it's got to be Sneed over McDuffie. But I don't want to discount what McDuffie's done, because you can look at the tape and you can look at the numbers and you can see that McDuffie is a huge, huge, huge component in the success of the Chiefs defense.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. His play has just been lights out. But I have to admit, I was a little surprised he made first team All Pro, and Sneed didn't make first or second. Oh my God, look at this! I got my girl Cheryl. My man Dan, have a great show spending the last day of my Uncle Jay. Are you in Chicago or are you at home? Because if you're in Chicago, I know you live in beautiful Arizona, which I wish I was there with you, because it is single. My computer says it's 8. My computer says 8. My computer's not often right, but yeah. So yeah, there's predictions. There's some weird things on this list here. Some things I would disagree about, but overall, I think it's a pretty good list. Amon-Ra got in first team. I think he deserved it. Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, and Amon-Ra are the 3 receivers. I don't have a problem with that. Puka Noda got second team. Let me see here. Trying to think if there's anything else here. Penei Sewell, first team right tackle, no problem with that. Antoine Winfield Jr. made first team All Pro, didn't go to a Pro Bowl. I have no problem with that at all. Jesse Bates made second team. Nothing wrong with that. Maybe a surprise, Mario Davis made second team All Pro. I think he deserves it, but not somebody. Some people may not think so. I do, but I have no problem with that. Chris Jones, first team All Pro, deserves it. I think it's a no-brainer. Just late. By the way, and that's also back to the Chiefs. He has some issues on the offensive line. Chris Jones has just been playing lights out lately. So, Hey, girl, getting some love here. You have a great weekend as well. And if you are in Chicago, you stay warm because it's probably bitter cold there as well. But hopefully you are not. Hopefully you're in beautiful Arizona. The final game, Philly at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay opened up as a 3-point home dog. It stayed that way. The over-under dipped a little bit from 44 to 43.5. What are your thoughts on this game, Keys? Because I have no idea what you think about this whatsoever.
Unless Philly has just been like playing possum most of this season, I think there's a great chance that Tampa Bay upsets them. Like I really do. I think Tampa Bay's offense is good enough. I think their defense is good enough. We got to see Philly from last year, right? Because it sure seems like when Prick Sirianni was celebrating his Super Bowl win at Arrowhead this season, that was legitimately his Super Bowl celebration, and he just checked out afterwards. So,
yeah, you're right. Right after that, the team's just completely fallen apart.
I mean, listen, it's hard to have your head coach act like a man-child and still have the respect to play for him.
You have a good point there, because I didn't have a problem with it that much, but I mean, right after that, the team just completely fell apart, and it's not the first time we've seen coaches do this too. They have a big win, and then they just fall apart. But who do you like in this game? Kevin says he likes Tampa.
Yeah, I do as well. Like I said, unless they've been playing possum, unless they suddenly learn how to coach again, and I forget the number, but someone on Twitter or X, whatever we're calling it, had the Eagles record, Nick Sirianni's record with Shane Steichen and without Shane Steichen. Without Shane Steichen isn't pretty at all. I don't think they really lost much with Gannon leaving, but maybe they did. I have no idea what's going on in the chaos of that defense. I just know the whole team is underperforming, and so it's going to be interesting to see if they actually wake up, because you have veteran leadership in Jason Kelce there, who might be, even a much more important leader than even Sirianni. But yeah, it's kind of a weird funk. And so listen, that list I sent you, I wrote in the Eagles as one of the teams as well, who could be, along with the Bills, who could be looking for a new head coach. If the Eagles lose this weekend, I don't know how you can justify keeping Sirianni there.
Oh man, this is a great list. Oh God, I'm not going to do it now. I probably should. I know now how to do it. I would just transfer it over to Google Drive, put it on slides. But yeah, I like Tampa Bay too. I pay attention to how teams go into the playoffs, and you can go in cold and still win. And it's happened before, but I think something's just really wrong and off with Philly. Tampa's won 5 out of 6. They're playing some good ball right now. By the way, Funk is mad that Laporta got second team over Travis Kelce. What are your thoughts about that?
We're talking about a guy who was 16 yards away from his 8th consecutive 1,000-yard season, having missed the first game and the last game, and playing the rest of the season injured, and not having a number one wide receiver especially an all-pro caliber number one wide receiver like Amon St. Brown there to take, the attention off of him. So listen, Sam Laporta is my Iowa guy. I love Sam Laporta. I wanted the Chiefs to get Sam Laporta, but I have absolutely no problem with it. They're not the same caliber player.
So
I feel like I should say yet.
Yeah. And by the
Well,
way,
no, because even then we're talking about the greatest tight end of all time. So even saying yet is not fair for Sam Laporta. But I'm looking forward to him having a great career. And I don't know why you would be angry at having a second team All-Pro rookie tight end.
No, and actually, Funk. So here's the drill. Funk is only he's put this in because he's mad Amon-Ra did not make the Pro Bowl, and it's really weird because it's a cool sounding name. I thought he's a popular player among fans and players. I didn't know that until you told me, but I was floored about that. I'm gonna level with you with the tight ends. It's George Kittle 1, Laporta 2, and I'm a little surprised because Evan Ingram almost set the all-time receptions record. And then I'm really surprised that Ingram and or Kelsey didn't get in. Also, Funk is not happy that Ragnow beat out Creed Humphrey. And I'm joking. We're joking, but yeah. But you got some good pieces in here. The All Pro. There's a few questions, but like Lions fans gotta like Amon-Ra making first team. Penei Sewell, that's kind of a no brainer. And then on defense, you guys got anybody? No. Okay. Philly losing those 3 studs, one on each. Yeah, they had all the injuries, the weird coaching issues. There's a lot of things there. Vrabel would be an interesting head coach in Philly with defensive piece. Yeah, he actually would be. And I mean, I thought it was kind of crazy to put Vrabel in Atlanta, but when I look at Atlanta, I'm kind of thinking, it just kind of made sense to me. But 10-1 to start the year, not winning the division is an embarrassment. Here's the deal: if Dallas finished 14-3 or 15-2, but I mean Dallas finished 12-5 and won that division, or is it 13-4? I think it was 12-5, 13-4, one of those. But yeah, I'm just having some fun here, Funk. I apologize. I mean, Kelsey definitely has a worse quarterback. Please no, I hate golf and don't believe this is the first part of that. Well, Funk, I know that you're on board with the Chiefs beating the Dolphins, and I'm going to level with you, man. I'm pulling for Detroit. When I went through the picks, I literally rapid fired 5, or I rapid fired 4. Philly, Tampa Bay, I kind of looked at, and I like the matchup favoring Tampa Bay, and I easily can make a case for Detroit. I could easily make a case for the Rams. I just went with, as Keas likes to say, I think it's just burned in my head because I've heard Keas say a quarterback head coach combo, and that's it. But I predict it's funny. I got 34-32. I think it's going to be a shootout. Yeah, I'm glad you agree because that to me is I really I mean Cleveland, Houston, I think is more of a coin flip. I was really expecting the betting public to be all on board with Cleveland, and it's just been the opposite. So I think people watched my video and then said, well, Dan likes Houston, so let's because I have that type of sway in the betting world. So lots of sarcasm there. Man, Keas, I thought this was going to be a little more in depth. I think I got everything. Am I missing something? Did we not go over something? My list was, by the way, this was just fantastic here. I did an excellent job bragging about myself. Wasn't there something else that we were going to talk about here? I got the Kelsey yardage, by the way. I'm going to go over this one more time. I really, my number one bet, what was it? Anytime touchdown?
Oh, Saban. You said you were going to talk about Nick Saban.
Well, so the Saban thing, like I said, the coach from Washington is just a Band-Aid. That's not the long-term solution. Now, if it works, great. But 5 years from now, he's going to be going somewhere else, and they're going to have a huge name. Harbaugh, Lane Kiffin, Steve Sarkisian. It could be an NFL coach. Dan Campbell, maybe. By the way, I would love to see Dan Campbell in the college ranks. If I remember right, he went to LSU. Brian Kelly would be another one. I do want to look at this bet if I can find it here, because this would not be a bet. Anytime touchdown. Okay, so DraftKings has 145. I'm going to level with you. You know the deal. I would not make this bet, but I get why you did it. But yeah. Keys, it's GM, head coach, and quarterback combo to me. GMs might be the in-season equation, but head coach. Yeah, and that's something that that's been a Keys staple for, God, how long have we known each other? Like several years now.
Like 3, yeah.
Since I remember,
it feels like so many.
Well,
yeah, all the way back to RGR, yeah.
Yeah, RGR when 49ers Chiefs Super Bowl.
Super Bowl 54.
Yeah, so because I put in that I did a video on how the Niners run a Tampa 2 defense, and you're like, it's cover 3, and I'm like, yeah, but it's really a variation of. To be honest with you, I just wanted to do a Tampa 2 video because I have a whiteboard, and I really want to do more. I don't know why I haven't done another one. Funk asked if I should break down the St. Louis Rams greatest show on turf offense, and I would love to do that. I would love to go talk about Air Coryell and how that offense affected the modern game, and how that affected the Rams, and how I would love to do more whiteboard stuff. Why I don't, it's a time issue, but I'd like to do more whiteboard stuff down the line. But Key says even then you have to throw out GMs, you have to throw in training staff. There's a lot of things. I messed with Michigan fans and said Harbaugh might go to Bama. They got offset. I'm going to tell you something. It's not as far-fetched as you may think. It's really not. This is almost the same correlation. It almost is the same correlation. And I thought about this. Lincoln Riley, the coach at USC, he may end up in Bama in a few years. Right now, you can't do it. But Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma, which is a top 10 job, 10, 15. I mean, I think it was better before they went to the SEC, but top 10, top 15 job to go to USC, which is easy a top 5 job. Alabama's a better job than Michigan. I'm sorry. I'm not insulting them. If there's some Michigan fans in here that are mad, I'm sorry. I know Gooch will be furious about that. He's a big Auburn guy, but let me ask you this, Keith. Am I wrong that Alabama's easily a better job than Michigan, or am I just, is my SEC bias too much here?
I guess if you were looking at it from the perspective of wanting an easier job, it'd be easier to win the Big Ten and get into the playoffs. What are your factors though? Because, I've driven through Alabama. I've been in Alabama multiple times. It's a trash state. It's an absolute trash state. As a place to live, not talking about the weather, but as a place to live, like as a beautiful place to live, I would take Michigan over Alabama.
That's fair.
Weather-wise in winter, maybe you pick Alabama.
Keep in mind,
you're a shrimp and crawfish guy.
These guys aren't living in the suburbs. I mean, these guys are living in the best of the best neighborhoods. So, I mean, it's probably a world-class. I mean, just as a school, though, I would have to think Alabama's a better school than Michigan. But maybe I'm too biased.
I mean, as a academically, it's not even close. It's hands down Michigan. Michigan is, a higher like research institution. I think their law school's way better. There's a lot of things there. And I'm saying that I was on a wait list to Michigan out of high school. So there's a little bias there, but I'm an Iowa fan. So, don't get me wrong there. But like I said, I lived in Mississippi for 7 years, and it's right next door to Alabama, and it's just a trash state. All right. Sorry for Alabama fans.
By the way, Denver Gator lives in Alabama. So
now.
Yeah. Well, I actually tell you the truth, I always forget because it's on the Alabama-Florida border. And he told me if I come down there, I can sleep on his floor. So Denver Gator, thank you. I do want to visit Denver Gator.
There are some beautiful beaches there, but there's a little bit of a caveat, right? Because Alabama, let's make sure I get this right. I want to say Alabama stole Mississippi's beaches. Maybe it's the other way around. And Alabama stole some of Florida's beaches. Either way, like if you look at a map, I think I'm right on this. It's been a while now. But anyway, it doesn't matter. They do have like there's some nice there's a little bit of nice beach area there. But outside of that, like I have friends who lived in Alabama. We drove through parts of Alabama, and it's about as bad and boring as Arkansas.
No. I will say this. I'll never forget this. Jameis Winston, when he was coming out of the draft, they had to do something at Michigan, and I was surprised he said this. It was right before the draft. I mean, he still went number 1 overall, so it didn't affect it that bad. But he said that once he saw the Michigan facilities, because Jameis Winston played, I think, at Alabama, and he wanted to stay close to home. So, I mean, he didn't go on a big recruiting tour or anything like that, even though I think he could have. He said that, like, once he went to Michigan, he saw the Michigan facilities. He said it made Florida State look like a junior high gym. And I was really surprised that he said that. But, yeah, Michigan, and by the way, you're right, Funk. I mean, he has everything you could want. But is it far-fetched that he could leave to go to Alabama? It's really not. It really isn't. But I'm going to tell you this right now. I know Alabama got a head coach. They're going to promote him. This is a Band-Aid. All right. Florida still have that. That actually makes a little more sense. Well, if Denver Gator was still here, he could answer this. But Denver Gator is probably doing a bunch of blow right now. But joking, maybe. It's not as far-fetched to think that I personally think Jim Harbaugh will end up back in the NFL. I think that once the Bears job becomes open, he'll be right back there. That's my opinion, but don't be surprised if he interviews for a few NFL jobs. But yeah. By the way, Funk, we had this issue in Kansas City when Scott Pioli came here. Carl Peterson towards the end with Herm Edwards, because originally they agreed that they're just going to cut the roster, just gut it after Vermeil left. And then Carl Peterson said, no, wait, you got to keep Larry Johnson, Tony Gonzalez. There was a lot of problems. So, yeah, when the head coach and general manager are on different pages. By the way, that's what happened in Atlanta. That was a big problem in Atlanta too. But I thought they were going to fire both the head coach and general manager, but the owner kept the head coach. So, yeah, we've seen it too. It seems like you have a good situation there in Detroit with Campbell, Holmes. And I'm telling you right now, John Dorsey has a big influence there. There's a lot of what Detroit's doing that Kansas City did to win a Super Bowl. So it would be a slap in the face. I really don't think it would. Let me ask you this here. He goes to Chicago for a couple of years, 3 years, 500, and then he takes over at Alabama for like $25 million a year. What is it really? He won a national championship there. Undefeated 15-0 season. I don't know. Louisiana stole half of Mississippi's beaches in New Orleans. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I need to spend more time in Florida, especially like I'm looking at my computer. The door's here. I feel the breeze, and I'm looking at my computer and my phone, and it says 8 degrees outside. And I was outside earlier today. It's miserable. So that's kind of what I have. God, and listen, we've been on for about 2.5 hours. I think we got through everything. But I'm telling you right now, don't be surprised. Deion Sanders, Steve Sarkisian, Lincoln Riley, Lane Kiffin, somebody from the NFL could very easily be in Alabama in the next couple of years. He would be shunned if he went to Bama. Michigan fans are super entitled, like you would think. They win a chip every other year that annoy the piss. Yeah, we get that. I get it. What's worse is Missouri fans that when they win for like the first time in forever, they act like complete assholes. So, by the way, KU fans, every March Madness, it's awful. So I get what you're saying, folks. GMs don't win games. Games come down to coaching, late decision games, quarterback plays in games. GMs matter for season success. Absolutely. They can make the head coach's job harder every game. Absolutely. Yeah, and that's just a Keas thing that's rubbed off on me is head coach quarterback combo. By the way, in the link below is the BAK Talk Brothers. There is my link, How to Stay Warm at Arrowhead. It does not involve cardboard, but has some great tips if you're going to the game. Also, it has my NFL Wildcards pick video. It's a great video. It has everything in there. I also have some trolls on there. I was going to bring up one of the trolls, and I decided not to because I won't say it. But I got some haters. I decided to let those comments roll. But Keas, before we wrap up here, man, final thoughts, questions, concerns, comments, anything at all. The floor is yours.
Come Monday, there is going to be probably at least 2 upsets. So,
I got 3. I got 3. You got 2. That makes sense. Wait, actually, who would be your 2?
I don't know. I'm just saying in general. Tampa Bay would be 1 off the top of my head.
I got Tampa.
I mean, it could be Pittsburgh. I mean, listen, it could be any. Would you count the Browns since they're a lower seed than the Texans? I'm just saying in general, it's going to happen. There's going to be at least probably one game where people are going to be like, oh, there's no way in hell they should have won, or no way in hell they should have lost. So
I'm hoping that's not the Kansas City Miami game. I'm really, really hoping that. No, and by the way, Funk, you're 100% correct. When the that's the number one thing about all these head coaching hirings. You have to bring a general manager, head coach that can work well together. Like when I said Vrabel would work well in Atlanta, I'm assuming that a head coach, general manager would work. If you don't get, by the way, I pointed this out because right away, Arthur Smith, I don't know who the general manager is in Atlanta anymore. They disagreed about the first draft, and Arthur Smith won. They ended up getting Kyle Pitts, and 3 years later, he's gone. So, but yeah, if these two don't match, all the head coaching, general manager positions have got to work out. That was kind of why I didn't have Harbaugh going anywhere, because Harbaugh is it's a tough. He's not an easy guy to get along with. If he had a better track record getting along with owners and general managers, I would probably put him at. God, I'm trying to think here which one I would put him in. I actually would. I do think he interviews for the Chargers and Raiders job, but I think that he'll rub some people the wrong way. I don't see him taking Tennessee. Him and Pete Carroll famously don't get along, so I didn't even include him in Seattle. Did you have on the list you sent me? Do you off the top of your head? I didn't look. Do you have Jim Harbaugh even considered for Seattle job?
I did put him on there. That was based more off of Gooch talking about him supposedly not wanting to coach in the AFC.
Yeah, and by the way, like in all due respect to Gooch, I don't believe that at all. I think he'd rather coach in the AFC, to be honest with you, because I don't think he wants to play his brother again in the Super Bowl. But it's possible. I mean, it's hard to say, but I think that's going to wrap everything up. Unless you got anything else you want to include.
Nothing.
All right, guys. In the description below is 3 videos. I encourage you, or one YouTube channel, and that's the BAK Talk Brothers. If you're not already, subscribe to the BAK Talk Brothers. Wednesday night, 7:30. It's a great show. Gooch, Aaron get involved. They got the ladies coming in now every now and then. It's really cool. How to stay warm at Arrowhead. If you're going to the game, it's a must follow. Don't listen to these people are telling you to bring cardboard. It doesn't help. And then watch my weekly picks video. It's fantastic. So I'll have the live stream set up later tonight for Chiefs and Dolphins. So if you don't want to pay the $5.99 for Peacock, just turn on YouTube. I'll do play-by-play and do my best to give a visual representation of what's going on. So guys, have a great night, and hopefully I'll see everybody back tomorrow for Chiefs Dolphins. 22 hours, less than 22 hours away from kickoff. I'm so excited. All right, guys, go Chiefs, and I'll see you all hopefully in less than 24 hours.